It's GUI 2, Electric Boogaloo. This is part 2 of our annual Game of Our Year celebration. I'm Santo, I'm joined by Alex.
Hi everyone.
And Matt.
Hello.
And we are here to count down the rest of our categories. If you missed the first part, be sure to check that out. Because who knows, there might be some callbacks, there might be some games that we nominate for multiple categories. So let's get started here with anticipation, because that is our first category. It's our most anticipated games for 2024, which...
I think you mean anticipation.
Well, I don't know about that, because me and Matt, we were looking through the list, and it's sparser than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I managed to scrounge together a few things, but yeah, it's not looking like a very good year this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I there's a couple things, and it's funny because there's even a couple of things that I think that I'm looking at that we've talked a little bit about before. But to be fair, this was kind of a crazy year for releases.
Yeah.
So was 2022 actually, because that was Elden Ring, and I feel like 2022 and 2023 were both big years.
They really did end up blurring together, honestly.
Yeah. And you know, these are the games that we're most looking forward to, but not all of them have a defined release date, and even if they do, they could get pushed back. Some of our most anticipated games from last year that got pushed back: Metal Slug Tactics, Homeworld 3, the Prince of Persia remake, Hades 2. Yeah, that was a big one. The Suikoden 1 and 2 remaster. So lots of stuff we'll see this year if some of those end up coming out. But for me, I've got a couple that I'm anticipating. One of which is actually coming out pretty soon here. I'm anticipating its full release because it's been in early access, but I didn't even know that it existed until like a week ago. And that's BlazBlue Entropy Effect.
Oh.
So it's not a fighting game, which, you know, the BlazBlue games typically have been.
This is the one that's not even being developed by the
Arc System.
Is it not Arc System?
No. I don't think it's Arc System Works. It's like some Chinese company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure, whatever.
It's weird because I heard that apparently the dialogue in the game is in Chinese, but it's translated to English. But then, because I'm assuming that like all the character voice lines while fighting are just taken from BlazBlue, so they're then speaking in Japanese when they're fighting. So
that's weird. Maybe that'll change for the full release. Maybe not.
Maybe. Yeah.
BlazBlue has been unfortunate with its choices of voice acting, because they just stopped doing English voice acting.
That they brought it back for cross tag. In fact, they even gave
they had to bring it back for cross tag.
But they even in cross tag they even gave like the Undernight characters English voice acting, who those games never even had an English translation till that point.
Regardless, this is like an action roguelite, whatever. And you know, BlazBlue games have always had immaculate character art and like animation art and stuff like that. They just look amazing in motion, and seeing a little bit of just like motion from this game, it looks like that same flashy style applies. So if it plays well, it could be a really good one.
I was gonna say, I think I heard, well, because I remember hearing about it and it was in early access, and I heard some pretty mixed stuff. Like people definitely thought that it looked great, but I also heard people saying that it's like very samey and repetitive and not. People weren't enjoying it, but sometimes that's kind of like the problem with an early access game, is that the content isn't actually there yet.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's coming out literally the last day of the month. Last day of January, I think. So should be able to find out pretty quickly. And then the other two that I'm looking forward to are actually two games that were shown in a Nintendo Direct that we reacted to. The first one is Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which is a Suikoden ripoff. I was anticipating this game until I learned that it's a Kickstarter game. And now I'm cautiously optimistic. Because, okay, it's been in development for a very long time, apparently, and Kickstarter. Some games can be great like FTL. Some games can be terrible like Mighty Number 9. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. And then the last one, the one that I'm most anticipating, is a Unicorn Overlord. This was shown in a trailer that didn't really show too much at that Nintendo Direct, but it looks like it's a spiritual successor to the original Ogre Battle, maybe. And the original Ogre Battle is one of my favorite games ever.
It's Vanillaware, right?
Yeah, I've never actually played a Vanillaware game, but their games are generally held in high regard. I really want to play 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, because that sounds right up my alley.
Great things.
Time manipulation, time travel-y, visual novel tower defense mech game. That sounds all right. So yeah, those are the games I'm anticipating this year.
All right. So the games I'm anticipating. So one of them's actually out already. Well, in early access, anyways. And that's Pal World.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have been playing a little bit about it. I won't go into it too much. I'll save that for the next episode after I've had some more time with it. But yeah, it's a Pokemon-like survival game. One disappointing thing is there are actually no, like, from what I've seen so far, there's no actual PAL battles. You just send them out and they fight alongside you. But yeah, like it's got like some Ark survival involved in there. Some Pokemon or some pals that like some are clearly like I don't want to say blatant ripoffs, but definitely inspired at the very least. But it's Pokemon with guns.
Hell yeah.
Next up, I'm looking forward to now there's like no date or even a year for this, but there was a recent I think there was a back end update for Steam that alludes to it, and that's the Elden Ring DLC, Shadows of the Erdtree.
Okay.
I mean, more Elden Ring, what's not to like? I've been thinking about reinstalling it and playing a bit with the randomizer.
Ooh.
See how that goes. Now, the next game I'm looking forward to, it's not something I'm really like. I might not even play it this year. It's I'm not looking forward to it so much that like I want to jump right onto it, and that's Persona 3 Reload.
Yeah.
Like I want to play it eventually. I want to play it eventually because I think Persona 3 is like in terms of the story and stuff. I think Persona 3 is probably my favorite of 3, 4, and 5.
Same.
So I definitely want to check it out. Check out the new voice actors and just see how it stacks up. Now, next is actually a fan game I'm looking forward to, and I think it comes out either towards the end of this month or it might even just be in a couple days, actually. And that's Bloodborne Kart.
Oh my god.
Yes.
That sounds silly.
Bloodborne Kart. It is. It looks silly. It's the same person behind the Bloodborne PS1, PSX version. The demake. And it's got that same PlayStation 1 visual style. But it's Bloodborne Kart.
That's amazing.
And the last one I'm kind of looking forward to, it was announced last year. Again, there's no real like date on it, not even a year, I think. Now, controversial opinion here, but I like Gex. And this is the Gex trilogy coming from Limited Run Games.
I like Gex in theory. Playing it, on the other hand, Crystal Dynamics' finest work. Step aside, Lara Croft. Gex is where the real action's at.
But yeah, that's about it for what I'm looking forward to.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this a little bit on the previous episode, but I'm really looking forward to Homeworld 3, which was supposed to release this year and didn't. Although I guess at this point we're in 2024 now. But yeah, so Homeworld 3 got delayed, but I am excited about it. It looks like it's going to be hopefully interesting and good. I mean, to be honest, there's not really tons of information about the game other than, they've released a few trailers and talked a little bit about it. And so it's going to be like a return to just the 3D space RTS formula, but they're trying to add they're trying to make it a bit more interesting by adding terrain in the form of alien superstructures, which is an interesting idea to add terrain into space. And then also they're adding like a roguelike mode, which every game seems to have a roguelike mode these days. And I think it's also co-op, like 3-player, which is always a weird number. I'm always surprised when people are like, yeah, we're going to make a 3-player game. And I'm like, what? I guess it's co-op. It's not so bad.
There's 3 of us.
There's 3 of us. It's true.
There we go.
Yeah, but
it's not often you get I feel like it's not often you get a co-op RTS.
The RTS genre in general has really just kind of been left behind, I would say.
Yeah,
it's
like
weird.
the last co-op RTS I can think of that I played was Halo Wars.
I think some of the new Age of Empires 2 expansions have co-op campaigns in them.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, though.
But yeah, I mean, apparently they're still like really focusing on just making the single player campaign really good, which is obviously where Homeworld has always excelled. And I think that's also just, making a single player RTS campaign is such a it's so not a thing these days. So it's almost a throwback in that sense, but I'm really excited for it, and I think it's I hope it lives up, because Homeworld was amazing. Homeworld 2 was also amazing, and it's been a long time though. And to be honest, the last game, because they did make a third game, which was Homeworld Deserts of Karak or Karak. Anyway, it was like a prequel to the first game, and it was set on land, so it was like a more traditional RTS, and it was all right. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't really capture the magic of the first 2 games, in my opinion. And partly, I don't know, I think I just didn't like it didn't feel like Homeworld to me. And partly maybe that was just because it was not it wasn't a 3D space game anymore. It was a more...
lacking an entire dimension.
Yeah, it was lacking an entire dimension.
That's kind of all you have to say, really.
Yeah, and so, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of bring it back to the roots, so to speak. And then also what they do with these kind of additional game modes, if they're going to be any good or not. Yeah, and then, so that's like the big one that I'm looking forward to. And then, I don't know, like, there's a lot of other stuff, and I've been looking through, like, oh, what's releasing, like, what's coming up, and like you guys, I'm kind of there's not a lot that I'm as excited about this year upcoming that we know of so far. A couple of things that stand out to me, maybe World of Goo 2. I don't actually know a lot about it, but I really liked World of Goo, which was also like so long ago. Like, that feels like a game that came out like 15 years ago or something.
For the Wii, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I played it on PC, so I don't remember if it was on the
Maybe
Wii.
I'm thinking of something else.
I mean,
No,
I think
I'm
it
pretty
might
sure
have
it
I was thinking of
Wii.
like a Boy and His Blob or something. I don't know which of those games is which.
Oh man,
In
yeah,
my
yeah,
head.
no.
Because the names are kind of similar.
Yeah, World of Goo released 2008 on Windows and Wii, and then later on some other devices later. But yeah, like 2008. Damn. So anyway, but that could be interesting. World of Goo 2. And then we talked a little bit about Space Marine 2, and I'm not sure about it, because on the one hand, I think I mentioned I wasn't the biggest fan of Space Marine, like 40K Space Marine on the first go around, but I was kind of like happy to see that the second game's got like a big focus on Tyranids, and Part of me wants to be like, yeah, they're doing something like a little bit different. Like they're bringing NIDS into an actual 40K video game, which they don't get. They don't get nearly enough love from.
Just make it even closer to Gears of War.
Yeah,
by making the enemy type a little bit closer.
Listen, you know, we've got to have a circle of we got to have a circle of ripping things off, you know, in this whole just big Space Marine genre.
Nothing's original anymore.
No, it never was. I mean, StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game until Games Workshop was like, no, we don't want to license it to you, which we've talked about as probably their biggest mistake ever. But then also even 40K itself was a rip-off of other sci-fi works, and nothing's original.
Yep. Maybe
Heinlein, if you want to go back to some OG sci-fi authors, but
Katamari Damacy.
What?
What is Katamari a ripoff of?
Oh God, that's a question. I'm gonna say it's a ripoff.
Fuck that Nobi Boy.
I'm gonna say that it's
that's original.
Yeah, Nobi Boy.
Unless there's some weird
game.
like old myth folklore of stretching until you reach the moon and other planets.
I don't know. That was a game, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Those are a few things I'm looking forward to, I guess. Like I said, I'm not as excited about what I've been looking at that's upcoming this year.
Yeah, like I took a look through some history. I went to Wikipedia for the Games of 2023 page and looked at the edit history. It went back to like, you know, mid-January of, you know, 2023 and looked, okay, what was announced then? And there was a similar number of games, but there were way more high-profile games announced for last year this time than there are this year this time. So I'll be interesting to see like if, you know, a lot of AAA release dates get announced. But I mean, the big announcement vehicles for that don't start until like the summer. So I don't know. Maybe this will be a weak year for games.
Maybe.
Could be.
Or a really stacked fall winter.
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Like the good old days.
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, especially like we were talking about how, you know, there might be some games that are gonna just get dropped.
Yeah.
With little
We don't know.
notice.
Shadow drops. All right, so our next category that we're going to be looking at is best level.
Oh, and actually probably Hades 2.
Oh.
I'm looking forward to Hades 2. We forgot to mention that.
I mean, considering it was one of your most anticipated games last year and it still hasn't come out, there's a reasonable assumption there that you're still anticipating it.
That's true.
All right. So yeah, our next category is going to be best level. So, you know, what defines a level? It's for us to really decide, but, you know, best if it's like a defined level, if it's an area, if it's a sequence in a game, whatever that ends up being. Matt, why don't you let us know what your thoughts are on this?
Yeah, so it's funny you brought up Katamari not long ago.
Oh God.
Because my best level is Make the Moon in Katamari Damacy Reroll.
Okay.
Nice.
It just takes everything you've done up to that point and you just gotta go even bigger. You just gotta make a 300-meter ball. I think the only thing the level's lacking a little is that you start at 1 meter. I think it would be a little better if you started from the smallest you start in that game. And have to work all the way up. But still, like at the end game there, the fact where you're rolling up entire islands, you're picking up the clouds in the sky because you're getting so big. It's the penultimate level.
Nice.
It's what that builds up. It's what the game builds up to.
All right. I had a lot of trouble choosing my best level because not a lot really stood out. I didn't play that many games this year that had a lot of levels per se, and if they were just like kind of the samey as like the rest of the game. So all I'm gonna say this time is also kind of samey to the rest of the game, but I don't care because this is a great level, and it's in a game that technically came out this year. I'm going with Mute City from F-Zero 99.
Oh, okay.
It's honestly like a pretty decent F-Zero track. It doesn't have a lot of like bells and whistles, but it's very basic. It's got a jump, it's got some tight turns, some rocky areas. Very small for 99 people to be bumping into each other on. It's completely chaotic. Some of the other levels, like it's clear, like the longer levels, a person's skill at F-Zero will, cap the ceiling that they can be at. But on Mute City, I've like raced pretty much the same in 2 different races, and one time got like 15th and another time got like 82nd. It's just pure chaos.
Nice.
With a bumping song. So, yeah. It feels like a cop-out, but I'm going with it anyways.
Oh man, yeah. There's a couple. I've got two that I'm thinking of. They've both got bumping songs in very different ways. And I was not sure if Matt was gonna perhaps nominate the singing Piranha Plant level from Super Mario Wonder, but
I had thought about it.
That's the easy answer. And I'm sure many other podcasts might nominate that as their best level. But I'm going to nominate actually Swift Platform from Control, which is actually from the Foundation DLC. Basically, it's actually like a little side quest level, and it's basically a haunted camera, and you go in to this to like purify it or whatever, and it pretty much, this is, I suppose it's a mild spoiler, but the camera basically like is like, okay, now you're in a movie. The movie is called Swift Platform, and then you get a pretty fun sort of challenge level where there's a bit of platforming and there's like some shooting and stuff, enemies, etc. But it's just got like a bumping soundtrack, it just super fast paced and really fun little level. There was other parts of Control that I was tempted to nominate, like the Smoking Maze, but Swift Platform, that's my favorite level, 2023. I guess you were trying to play the Alan Wake games before Control, Matt?
I'm well, with the exception of Quantum Break, because I've already played it. I'm going to pretty much go through the rest in release order.
And I didn't get to the DLC in Control, so...
Oh, yeah, because Swift Platform was in the DLC.
It's a good game. And
it's a good game.
Me and Matt's picks are kind of rehashes. Matt's is from a re-release and mine is from a Battle Royale. Racer Royale, whatever you want to call it.
It's a re-release, but I had never played it before.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because we got Mute City, sorry, Matt, what was the
Make
name
the
of yours
Moon.
Again? Make the Moon and Katamari, right. I'm trying to remember if I played that one. I'm not sure if I did. I played Katamari, but... the funny thing is I played Katamari Forever, which was also kind of a re-release game, because they basically took levels from a bunch of other Katamari games and put it into one game. Katamari's just been like... Katamari's such a weird franchise, because it's kind of unique, and yet they seem to keep rehashing... It seems to keep rehashing itself.
It's because the original... I don't know his name, but the original creator left after the second one.
To make Nobi Nobi Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah! I'm sure he's made other... I think he's made other weird games.
Oh, I hope
probably.
they're weird. I'd be disappointed if they weren't.
Yeah, I know, right? So we have to pick a winner.
We do have to pick a winner here.
Katamari, Make the Moon, Mute City from F-Zero, or Swift Platform from Control.
I mean, in Control you go to a lot of different places, but do you go to the moon?
I don't know. You go to weird places.
The funny thing too.
Like
weird metaphysical places.
You go to weird metaphysical places. Are any of them on
See,
the
Katamari is all about the physical. You're rolling up physical things.
Yeah.
To make the moon.
Yeah.
My vote's for Katamari.
Sure. My favorite Katamari level was the one where you end up rolling up the whole damn universe. That's a classic.
That's too much. See, you can't do that because then where do you go from there?
Where do you go? You don't go anywhere, and that's why they
can't
escalate. That you can't. That's why it's done.
It's like Gurren Lagann. It can't get any bigger.
Yeah. That's when you go abstract.
Speaking of Gurren Lagann, that's something that's an anime. That's not really a video game. But sometimes you get your video game and your anime, or your actor in your video game, or your food
establishment.
Yeah, and so we're going to be going over some of the weirdest crossovers of last year and try to pick which of these is the weirdest one. So we have a number of nominees already here. We have Among Us cross Vampire Survivors. We have Alucard from Hellsing cross Call of Duty. We have Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight. One of my favorites, Street Fighter 6 cross Chipotle. Final Fantasy 14 cross Fall Guys. Overwatch cross One Punch Man. Magic the Gathering cross Jurassic Park with the fantastic Jeff Goldblum likeness card. Power Wash Simulator cross Final Fantasy 7. Lion Monster Farm cross SoftBank, and also cross Code Geass. And also the last one is Fitness Boxing cross Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, that last one with Fist of the North Star was the one that definitely, I think, threw me the hardest.
That's the one I want to win.
Well, this year you get Fitness Boxing cross Hatsune Miku.
I mean, that's like maybe sure, like you can fitness boxing, like doing like dance moves and stuff. Have you seen a fight in Fist of the North Star?
Oh yeah.
How do you fitness to that? Like just doing a bunch of like 2-finger pokes, and then things are exploding. Like, how does this work?
I think
Shindaru.
So the other thing that really gets me about Fist of the North Star, like okay, Hatsune Miku Fitness Boxing, I'm like, okay, it's a bit weird, but I fully expect Hatsune Miku to be shilled out as hard as possible for anything and everything. Whereas Fist of the North Star is just like, what? Is there even anything happening with that series?
They've continued making series. I don't know when the most recent one is, but there was one at least I think in 2018 or 2019, which was fully CG and looked fucking terrible.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I think Fist of the North Star, I think like 15, 20-year-old media.
Older than that,
Jesus.
Older,
yeah.
Yeah.
Does it predate JoJo?
I think it does, actually. Or
and I'm like
JoJo's been going for a while.
I think I think its popularity predates JoJo's popularity, to be honest.
Fact check.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The other thing is like popular in Japan versus popular here. Sometimes there's kind of a big difference there. The other one, like, okay, some of these are weird, but I'm like, they're not that weird. Like, okay, Among Us, Vampire Survivors, I'm like, whatever. They're 2 video games. They're not really related at all, but they're both video games. I think that like the other one that like really gets me is just the Street Fighter 6 Chipotle, just because I'm like, huh?
Yeah, like
like the only time I expect a restaurant to be shilling video games is basically like a McDonald's toy or something.
No, the only time I expect food to cross-promote with video games is Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
like,
Chipotle.
Chipotle
I'm just like,
of all
huh?
things for Street Fighter 6. Is Chipotle big in Japan?
I
Because like,
don't even know Chipotle has a foot presence in Japan.
I would expect like
know,
Street Fighter 6 and KFC, because KFC is very big in Japan. But like,
Yeah,
why?
we're also just like, I just think about the demographic, and I'm like, I don't think of Chipotle as like being a video game heavy demographic of their customers, you know?
Maybe, I don't know. I
don't
Dorito.
know either, but it's not like
to Chipotle, but
like Doritos. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Chipotle, huh?
Okay, to fact check earlier, Fist of the North Star started in 1983. JoJo's was 1987. So
it does predate. Okay.
Yeah.
See, one that's weird to me is Nicolas Cage in Dead by Daylight. Like, I could understand it if it was like a character from a horror movie he had played in. But the fact that it's just Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's where it gets weird, because like Nicolas Cage showing up in just whatever project, that's nothing new. But starring as himself in it, that adds an interesting wrinkle to it.
I mean, Nicolas Cage is also just he has become a meme, and he kind of just leans into it because he's, I don't know, bankrupt again or whatever. He needs money.
Yeah.
He'll say yes to anything. That's been the joke about why he's in so many just weird projects.
Another one that I want to talk about here, though, is Power Wash Simulator Cross Final Fantasy VII. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Like, I've played through the entirety of Final Fantasy VII. Nowhere in there would I say is appropriate for power washing.
No. What you're doing is you're in the lobby of the Shinra building, and you're washing the vehicles they have on display.
What?
What?
That is
like
very weird setup.
Like, Power Wash Simulator, like, everything I've seen about it is this, like, weird, like, chill/manic OCD type of game. And Final Fantasy VII is not a vibe that I think fits in either of those categories.
Well, I think what we're forgetting here, though, is Power Wash Simulator is published by Square Enix.
Yeah, sure, but still, Square Enix publishes a lot of things. Okay,
it's
like,
an odd mix.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely some weird ones, but I think my vote is still with Fitness Boxing Cross Fist of the North Star.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, just the motions don't make sense for that.
Yeah, I think I'm voting for that one too, because again, like I said, like some of these other ones, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, it's a bit odd, but when I first heard about that one, I was just like, what the hell are they doing? Like, this makes no sense at all to me.
Yeah. So I can agree with the Fist of the North Star, but I also just want to point out to our listeners, there's no Fortnite on here.
Yeah, we disqualified Fortnite.
Yeah, when we were making this, I kind of established that at this point, nothing in Fortnite is weird anymore.
No.
It can be surprising, but not weird.
Yeah.
It's not even surprising anymore. Like,
Peter Griffin's in right now.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
It was only a matter of time after, the Futurama got added, so.
I'm still surprised at the lack of Simpsons, though.
Simpsons probably wanted too much money.
But you know what the Simpsons has that, has not gotten worse with time? The theme song. And that leads us right into our next category, which is Best Music. My pick for Best Music is going to be Octopath Traveler 2. I think this game does something that I like seeing in a lot of games, where it incorporates the game's mechanics with the music in some really nice ways, between like the characters, story levels, areas, and all that. So the first selection I'm going to play here is a Sensational City Day. It's got kind of like a Roaring 20s vibe, swing kind of thing. So it's a pretty nice song, but one of the things that's cool about Octopath Traveler 2 and how it uses music is that there's a day and a night system in the game. And you can flip between these whenever. So when you're in an area and you flip between day and night, it'll go to like a lo-fi chill version of that song. So like, this is, a very jazzy, snap your fingers to. But the same version of the song at night, be a lot more chill.
Oh yeah.
Laid back. You can tell. Slower tempo. This version of the song on the soundtrack is 2 minutes longer than the day version.
Oh yeah.
So that's a great use of using music differently, where it's the same melody, same really track, but done in two different styles to represent a single place at two different times. And yeah, like it seamlessly transitions in between the songs when you're switching between day and night, like the exact same point in the song.
Nice.
Kind of, so that works out pretty well. But the thing that really pushes Octopath Traveler 2 over the edge for me, is the character themes. The character themes are done incredibly well. This is one of the very few JRPGs where, like, the battle songs aren't my favorite songs on the soundtrack. So I'm going to go into a few of them here. So the first theme we're going to listen to is the theme of Agnia the Dancer. Actually, it's going to be a dancer's theme, so it's going to be pretty bright, pretty energetic, kind of an Irish jig style. And, it just starts to, ramp up, get more energetic, more and faster as the song goes on. The character themes, they have different versions of them based on different times. Like, when you're having a, like, emotional confrontation with one of the, like, other main characters of the theme, or, like, pre-battle, they'll play, like, a heavier version of the characters' themes. And even like the final battle against the bosses of the particular routes will like incorporate the character theme into the battle music. The Dancers actually is hilarious because it's an entirely new song with lyrics in a made-up language.
I love when stuff does that.
I had one little problem with it in that I think maybe it was just like the mix was a bit off because the lyrics were really loud in comparison to everything else and were honestly a little distracting.
So the opposite of a Nolan movie.
Yeah. So that's a really nice one, but
you know what's funny? I just actually watched Oppenheimer, like the past.
Oh.
Oh man, dude, it was like I had to really turn it up to hear like what they were saying, and then explosion.
I've kind of just gotten to the point where I pretty much watch anything with subtitles on now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Stuff's just mixed for a theater, not for the home.
Yep.
That's the problem.
So next theme, just to show like the diversity of themes in this game. Okay, there we go. That is the wrong one. Hold on. Sorry. Timestamps, baby. There we go.
Not trying to show us that bassy piano.
No, I'm gonna give you like the mysterious intrigue music of Temenos the Cleric. Because he's I almost nominate him for best character because he's like an inquisitor, like he's like trying to solve mysteries from the church, but that also makes him like a skeptic. And like the skeptic priest is one of my favorite tropes in media. There's always a lot of opportunity for comedy there. So you can hear like this is completely different tempo, completely different instrumentation, and that's like a key thing with all the character themes, that all of them use a different, selection of instruments to make the theme, which I think is good. Like that's a very easy, well, I shouldn't say easy, that's a very noticeable technique that you can use to differentiate, between different characters. And the last one I'm gonna go here is Partitio's theme, which maybe this will make you guys regret not picking it for best character. But got fucking electric guitar, baby. So even though the rest of the soundtrack is like instrumental, got this like sick guitar, and just wait for it.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Get that sax in there too, man.
Sax. This feels like the most This feels like the most American theme. And also, it just looks like a little bit like a Western, and I'm just thinking like, I don't know.
It's not a gold rush town, it's a silver rush town.
Yeah.
This particular one. But yeah, this is a great theme, and the variations from this theme in particular that play along the campaign are really good too. So yeah, Octopath Traveler 2. I think that it's a great soundtrack. It's a lot more memorable than the first game. I don't really remember a lot of the tracks from the first game very well, but almost all the character themes I remember pretty well for this one. So all right, I'll stop it here because it's gonna loop. So yeah, Octopath Traveler 2. That's my nomination.
All right.
So you guys are still keeping your secret. Didn't add them to the playlist yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured we'd try to like keep it to the last moment here. Right. It's funny actually. I considered nominating. Why am I blanking? Oh yeah, I considered nominating Sea of Stars because it also did some cool stuff with like especially transitioning from day themes to night themes because you can control that in that game. I didn't ultimately do that though.
Octopath Traveler 2 came out first. Get wrecked, Sea of Stars.
Get wrecked. Yeah. I guess I'll go next.
Lay it on us.
All right. So my nomination is Risk of Rain Returns. And I'm going to be honest, like a lot of the soundtrack is it's remastered versions of the music in the first game, which it's not necessarily a bad thing because frankly I think like we were talking a little bit about this, like how it was like, how did Risk of Rain, the first game, like become such a phenomenon? And honestly, I think part of it is just that the music is so good in the first game. And Chris Christodoulou, which is an incredible name, the composer, he really like kind of went back and just did a great job remastering these tracks, I think. This one, Chance to... I really don't know how to pronounce this. Chanson d'automne. It's like the Sky Meadow theme, primarily. Really good. In Risk of Rain 2, of course, there's a similar track. Similar-ish. The Rain formerly known as Purple. I love this one too, though. It's really good. One of my favorites. It's kind of really nice, kind of... The way it uses, like, I don't know, an oboe or something? I'm not sure what instrument that is. I think it's like an oboe or some kind of interesting reed instrument. You don't see that used very much in video game music, but it's also in the pure in the DLC, the yellow level with the purifying pools.
Sulfur pools?
Yeah.
Or
No. The
Thelian Sanctuary?
Yeah.
The second stage, right?
Yeah, the second stage, the Sanctuary. That's another one that uses kind of some similar instrumentation to this one, Chanson d'automne. I cannot speak French, so I'm absolutely butchering that. So I like this one.
I'm right there with you.
It's a bit more chill. But the other thing I like about Risk of Rain and the way that its soundtrack is composed is that there's a lot of music that just like it does this kind of like this slow intro thing, and then I'm gonna skip ahead because it really kicks in a bit later, and it kind of comes in and out. But this track, Moisture Deficit, Another great track. This one's, I think this is actually one of the first levels? Or no, teleporter event. But, you know, you're just getting lulled in. You're like, yeah, go to sleep. No, you can't. It's a really nice. It's a really nice balance, and like there's some other tracks that are like, you know, kind of chill throughout, and others that are just like really aggressive, especially for some of the boss music. But I really like those. And then something that was really interesting for the Risk of Rain Returns specifically was this track. And so there's two versions of Coalescence. There's Coalescence that plays during the game, and then there's the Coalescence that plays during the credits. And this is the one that plays during the credits. And it's just really just a very relaxed kind of version of the song. And then it's got this just like a solo singer, basically,
like a vocal version of the melody.
Yeah, it's a vocal, just some vocals singing. It's not really lyrical so much as it's just melodic.
A cappella.
A cappella is, in fact, a term that one could use if you are a musician.
I don't know if a cappella refers to a person just doing a part or doing the entire thing. I don't know.
Not sure. Oh, you've also got this, just like this plucked guitar. But this is a super cool way to end off with the credits. And it does kind of build up into a more full track a bit later. I really like it. It actually reminds me a lot of Cirque du Soleil and their style, because they kind of do this interesting kind of like building vocal forward melodic thing in some of their shows. So yeah, it's a very like beautiful track. Anyway, that's the sort of a cappella version of Coalescence with Maria Papageorgiou. I have no idea how to pronounce that name properly either. And then we're also just going to listen to a little bit of the classic Coalescence remaster, because like, I love this track. It's really funny. This track, April doesn't like this track at all because it like makes her anxious and kind of like just unsettled, which is kind of, I've always found it kind of interesting, because in a way it's really, it kind of takes a while to build up, but it really is like, this is sort of like the last level, and it plays and it's a really difficult, it can be a very difficult level, and it's supposed to be challenging. And the thing about Risk of Rain is that you are on a hostile planet that is trying to kill you, so it makes sense for it to be a little bit anxious, even when it's like sort of slow and relaxed. And so I've always thought that this track really encapsulates the game's mood more so than others to me. And then at some point, there we go. Then it hits.
Eventually.
Well, see, and here's the thing. This track, it takes a while for it to really hit, but in my experience, it often like matches the way the level plays really well, because although I don't know that it's I don't know if it's adjusted dynamically, but it's just the way it's timed. I inevitably seem to be having shit going horribly wrong when the track kind of kicks up a notch later in its running time. I'm not sure if they do any kind of dynamic music like edit jumping around. I don't know.
Well, I think they did that. They did that in the first version of the final stage in Risk of Rain 2. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did it in Returns as well.
Yeah, I think they might, because it always seems very well timed when I'm actually playing through the level. Anyway, I could keep going on about this, but it's a great soundtrack. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I think really made Risk of Rain stand out. It's just that the soundtrack is so good, and it fits the sort of just mood of the game very well, I think. And Risk of Rain Returns it's just Risk of Rain, but basically just better, and the music is part of how it's just better, because it's pretty much the same songs but just remastered, and with a bit more the composer has had more time to refine what he's sort of doing in terms of the mood of the game, of the series.
Alright, so my nomination is Cassette Beasts. I mean, for a game where, the whole gimmick is you've got these cassettes and you're walking them to turn into the monsters, you better have some good music for it. So this is the main battle theme. So the soundtrack for Cassette Beasts is described as furious 80s synth rock meets British indie.
Okay. That's a description, all right.
Now, I don't think I talked too much about the music when I talked about the game.
Not really.
But one thing that the game does that I really like...
I like the bullet bill on that album art.
Oh, yeah. But so what it does is so one problem I have with RPGs, especially like the Persona games, is the main battle theme. While it can be a good song, can get it can wear on you.
Yeah,
because of how much you hear it.
I never want to hear the Persona 4 battle theme ever again. I've heard that thing over 1,000 times.
So what Cassette Beast does is, with the exception of the final boss battle and the in-town overworld music, which only has lyrics play when you're inside a building in the town, all the other, not every song has a lyric version, but big ones do, all the ones that play in battle do, but the lyrics don't actually kick in until you use the fusion mechanic. So the lyric versions play very scarcely. So I'm just going to switch over to the lyric version of this one that's been playing now. Just jump ahead a bit. And the lyrics will kick in seamlessly with where it is in the song when you do the fusion. And I don't know, I really all the lyric songs from this game I absolutely love, and I actually ended up buying the soundtrack because not much of the game's soundtrack is available on Spotify. It's mostly it's available for sale on Steam and Bandcamp just because artists don't make a lot off of Spotify. And it was a very small team. But I've been listening to the lyric songs from this game ever since I played Cassette Beast, and I absolutely love it. Gonna put on another one here. Yeah, like the genre is definitely hard to nail down, which is why there's such a descriptor. But I actually found that description on the vinyl version of the soundtrack.
Oh.
Where you can buy the actual vinyl. And actually, one cool thing they did is they did actually release the soundtrack on cassette as well.
You kind of have to.
Yeah.
If you're gonna name the game Cassette Beasts.
But yeah, no, this soundtrack's just really stuck with me this year, and I love it. Let's jump ahead. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good call having the lyric version kick in scarcely, just so it doesn't become wearing on you. But yeah, that's about it for me for Cassette Beasts.
Nice. Right, you mentioned something that I forgot to mention about Octopath Traveler 2 is that it doesn't use the same like random battle theme throughout the entire game. There's like kind of 3 tiers of the 3 acts of the game. There's a different battle theme for each act, as well as obviously some special battle themes for special encounters, boss encounters, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's super important. Like that's a make or break for me now in an RPG. Like you better have different music for your random encounters throughout the game.
Like that first one I was playing, as I said, that was that's just like your general encounter song. But then for like your different for your different like boss fights, like each of those different types of boss fights has its own track. So like all the ranger battles, the archangel battles, like they each have their own track that plays for them.
So what wins?
That's tough.
I mean, I'm willing to I'm willing to put my vote towards Risk of Rain.
Damn it. I'm gonna lose 3 years in a row. I'm pretty stuck with my pick. I think that but it's up to you guys. I don't want to just start knocking your guys' soundtracks here, but I will if I have to.
You don't want to, but you will.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's challenging just, listening to only snippets because I haven't played Cassette Beasts or Octopath Traveler 2.
And music is very subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is always the most difficult category.
Yeah.
But I have always liked the music in the Risk of Rain games, which is why it's kind of easy for me to throw my vote that way.
Yeah, except I've heard it before.
But hasn't been nominated
Damn
before.
remakes, man. Winning
Yeah,
things.
and I also...
I mean, you also have problems with the gameplay, which I think we've discussed.
Sure, but that doesn't...
Anyway.
Okay, the soundtrack's good. It's just, A, I've heard it before, and B, it's very similar to, Risk of Rain 2's soundtrack as well, which is kind of what happens when you get the same composer. And
actually, what? I'm throwing my vote towards the sax and guitar.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
swing vote has been convinced.
Yeah, Roaring 20 is the swing vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like the Risk of Rain soundtrack, like all of them are good, but I've always found myself whenever I'm playing Risk of Rain 2 putting my own music on or putting on something else to listen to while I'm playing it. That's probably a consequence of me playing so many hours of it, but
yeah, I mean, when
it's not something that really like stuck with me that far in.
When you play a game for 700 hours.
That's also a little bit... It's also more difficult to appreciate music in a multiplayer game when you're just talking to people.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Also, let's be real. The Rain, formerly known as Purple, is not in the first game, so what are you going to do? Because that is probably my favorite track out of all the Risk of Rain music.
Mine for the DLC second level is my favorite.
Oh, okay, the DLC.
I love the build up on it.
Yeah, that one is also really good.
Like,
I really love that
close.
one too. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Octopath Traveler 2 seemed like it was pretty good for an RPG. Like, I don't know. It's hard to judge something like that.
It's a lot of qualifiers. Yeah, I know. This is an impossible category for us to like really.
Okay. Well, anyway,
it's the most subjective category. We cannot be objective about it. That's just how it is. And we kind of just have to.
This should be a personal category.
Flop off of it. I know, but it's more. I like the contention. All right.
It sounds like the swing.
We don't yell at each other enough.
It sounds like the swing vote.
We're too understanding. We're too Canadian.
Sorry, eh?
Yeah.
This is why the podcast's not popular, right? We're not unhinged enough.
Yeah, we're not.
We're too well adjusted.
If you guys didn't pick Octopath Traveler 2, I might have gone off a little bit. Okay.
I don't know. I didn't. That's the thing. I didn't hate it. It was nice. Anyway, let's just move on.
Okay. I will say though that I had another potential nominee here that I knew would win if I picked it, but I felt it wasn't fair to pick Theatre of the Final Bar Line because trying to argue that any other soundtrack that year beats 300 plus curated selections from arguably one of the most influential music franchises in video game history. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? That's not original music, so I don't think it should count.
Plus some guest music.
Yeah. Hey, plus some Octopath music. There we go.
Octopath, Nier.
It's got Octopath. That makes it better. It includes Octopath.
All right. Big set, subset. Let's go. Okay, I don't know how to spell cassettes, apparently. Or do I? 2S, 2 T's?
Nice.
1S,
2 T's. Or do I have it wrong here? Oh, wait, no, it is 2. 2 and 2.
Hell yeah.
Almost. Right, accidentally wrote Risk of Rain Perturbs.
Risk of Rain Perturbs.
Oh, Risk of Rain Perturbs. That would be a...
All right, we need a Perturbator collab called Risk of Rain Perturbs.
Oh, hell yeah. That'd be sick.
All right. Now,
special Cyberpunk Risk of Rain level.
Yeah. Now, you know what's not Cyberpunk? Lo-fi chill. This is the Lo-fi award to chill games to relax
that
to.
Feels like
if you're going to try to argue that Cyberpunk is potentially lo-fi chill, it's all about technology and corporate oppression.
Okay, but if you had like lo-fi chill music in like a lounge in a cyberpunk setting, that would work. Could work.
Maybe.
As soon as the shooting starts, obviously the music has to like kick into like a completely different gear. But
yeah, so these are just, games that you can sit down, play, relax, not particularly stressful, but just a good time to have when, you need to decompress. Now, I was going to nominate Picross 3D Round 2 because Picross is awesome. Picross 3D is awesome. And it's, just more puzzles onto... I haven't actually played the first one, but it seems like there's a ton of content in here. The problem is that this would be my worst controls of the year because this game actively hurt my hands.
Oh no.
Oh,
It's on the 3DS, and the way it works is you have the stylus, and you use the stylus to tap to either delete blocks, paint them a different two different colors, or mark them as potentially being one of those two different colors based on standard Picross like numbers saying, okay, here's how many of this color are in this row and whatever. It's a fantastic puzzle game. The problem is that the stylus it doesn't do enough, because you use the stylus for tapping, use the stylus for rotating and like kind of like shifting the play grid to like see cross sections so you can get into like the innards of the 3D cube or rectangular prism that you're working on. But to determine what happens when your stylus taps a block, you have to hold down buttons to do that. And so there wasn't like an option for you to tap things on the screen to put you into different modes to then tap on the bricks.
Weird, because other Picross stuff I've played on the 3DS does have that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe like they didn't want it to do too much because it's 3D and you're rotating around something. I don't know, but like you have to either use the like face buttons, circle pad, the triggers to like go into these different modes for selecting. It hurt my hand after a while. So like I can't chill and relax to this game as much as I want to. So instead, I'm going to nominate a game.
It would get the Kid Icarus Uprising Award.
Yes, 100%. Here's the thing, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's just like my hands cramping because like I'm too, like my fingers are just too long, so I have to like retract them too much to hit the circle pad and the shoulder button while I'm using it. But at the same time, if I had a 3DS XL, that would also be a heavier thing for me to be holding in one hand.
Extra weight.
So it's like I don't even know if that would balance out. So yeah, I'm not nominating that. Instead, I'm going to nominate Growth. Growth was a game that was released last year, and so the best way that I could describe it is that it's a 4X game where you're not exterminating anything. But at the same time, I don't want to call it a 3X game.
Wait a minute. Is this... Oh, is this the... Wait. Okay, I was just thinking there's a very different game that is also described as a 4X game without combat, but it's space-themed.
All right, that joke's completely missed. Okay,
this is not that.
That's fine. No worries. Yeah, so it's a very relaxing game where you're basically like... you have little habitats that have animals in them, and different types of animals will be able to move across this board in different ways. So you're exploring to uncover more of the map, expanding by claiming new little habitats to get more animals. I guess you're exploiting the resources you're exploiting those animals by making them like run out and search for you. But the game it's very satisfying to play. The sound effects and the visual effects when you're uncovering the map are really, really nice. They're like Switch UI level satisfying sounding and moving. So it's like a pretty chill sort of puzzle game where you're trying to uncover enough of the map to unlock more of the map, and at a certain point you find a active volcano that's going to erupt. So you need to send your cute animals over there to calm down the volcano. So you need to figure out like the kind of the most efficient way to use your animals and their different movement patterns to uncover like the maximum possible space of exploring while using the least amount of animals. And like you've got, deer, bees can fly.
Bees can fly.
Goats which can move like great distances across mountains. You got ducks that can move across the water. So it's just a very chill time, and it's a very cheap game as well. So it's a nice little time.
As an aside, I just had a thought. You could probably make a 4X game where all the playable factions are just different species of ants.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing you could do.
I want carpenter ants.
Carpenter ants.
Plus 20% production for buildings.
Oh, come on. I want leaf cutter ants. They obviously cut leaves way better than anyone else. Or maybe other people can't cut down leaves. I don't know.
Or maybe bullet ants.
Oh,
Mess everything up.
Just big tanky big tanky ants. You don't get a lot of them, but they're just beasts.
so my nominee for this category is a bit surprising considering the content of the game, but despite that, it's very relaxing at times. And that's Dredge. Despite the eldritch horrors, it can be a very chill game. Just managing your little fishing boat, going out, doing little fishing mini games to fish or dredge up items from the seafloor, laying down your crab pots, going away and coming back to check them later. And occasionally maybe something from the deep starts to creep up on you. But yeah, no, despite that, still very chill.
Yeah. What's more chill than fishing?
Nothing.
Ice fishing.
Damn it, you beat me to it.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I was tempted to nominate Hard Space Shipbreaker in this category because despite the aggressively dystopian capitalist nature of the like meta game, the actual like gameplay is like, you know, it's kind of like it's sort of like a chill puzzle game, puzzle deconstruction, how to disassemble the ship without destroying it in the process. And sometimes you screw up and it just blows up, goes all to hell. It's chill until you like die horribly, basically, and get charged lots of money in the process. But no, instead, actually, I am nominating new Pokemon Snap, which is not a new release for 2023, but I first played it in 2023, and that game is chill as hell. Just taking pictures of Pokemon, just filling out your I guess it's not really a dex, but you know, you gotta take
your photo album.
Your photo album. Yeah, I gotta fill out your photo album, and then it's kind of a little interesting because there's like 4 spots for each Pokemon now instead of just one, and they're based on like it's based on like the rarity of the pose. So if you catch them doing something really unique, it could be like a higher rarity. Like a 4-star photo is usually some kind of special ability that Pokemon has.
Surfing Pikachu.
There's serving Pikachu is totally a thing, and I think that's a 4-star photo if I remember right. But you know, you can get a 1-star photo too, which is just like nothing special is happening. And so trying to get like a high value,
it's a Pidgey.
Getting a high value photo, even though nothing interesting is happening, is kind of like, you know, itself sometimes, well, not a huge challenge, but it just adds a little bit more depth to your photo album, so you can kind of spend more time, you know, picking out nice pictures and stuff. And then there's like a photo editing thing. I think I made a couple of silly edits, like that I sent in the group chat. Like there was one with a stupid like Raichu. Surfing Raichu, just being ridiculous. There's a pretty funny pixelated Flareon picture I made. And so it's just a fun chill little game.
Pixelated.
Yeah, it's got filters. Lo-fi. That is lo-fi. That's a lo-fi Flareon. And
that's a good Flareon.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, actually, like there's a surprising amount of depth to it as well, because there's a lot of like interactions between different Pokemon and different like environmental objects. So much, in fact, that I'm like, I have no desire to 100% that game, because there's pages and pages and pages of these like little challenge things, and some of them are just like really obscure as to what you're even supposed to do, to the point where it's actually a little frustrating, and I'm like, no. Also, like, they're really finicky sometimes. It's like, hey, get a get a Pokemon to do this particular thing, and you take a picture and they're totally doing the thing, but the game just doesn't recognize that it's happening, and so you don't get the award, which is really annoying. So I guess it's not.
Let's see that they still didn't fix that from the N64 version.
No. And I don't know how the game engine recognizes these things, but it's really finicky about getting some of those things sometimes. So what can you do? But overall, super chill, relaxing game. Just shoot some pictures of Pokemon. Fill out your photo album.
Yeah.
It's like the pure definition of like lo-fi relaxing game in this category, I think.
Some good selections there. I'm liking Pokemon as a pick here.
Yeah, I got to agree.
Like, that's...
Ain't no Eldritch Horrors there.
Yeah, there's no Mr... Is Mr. Mime in the game?
Mr. Mime, I believe, is in the game, I think.
What about Guzzlord?
I don't... Do I even want to know?
Here, we need to bring up his anime cry. Actually, that's doable.
Yeah, it very much is.
Oh yeah, I think it's this one. Hold up.
Maybe Mr. Mime's not in the game. I literally just don't remember.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Oh, what? What the hell?
That's his cry.
All right then.
It just sounds like a guy screaming.
Okay, so the lo-fi award for chill games to relax to goes to new Pokemon Snap. And now we go from, chill games to ones that just bum us out, because it's time for the biggest bummer. This could be the worst game we played, the most disappointing game we played.
Well, why don't I start us off here?
Okay.
So, my biggest bummer is DLC. And it doesn't so much have to do with the content of the DLC, but the performance of the DLC.
Ooh.
And the game which it is in, because I feel like these DLCs would have been the last chance to see any kind of performance update for these games, and this is the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's not so much has to do with the content of the game, but just the performance, because in some ways the DLC even performs worse in some areas.
Yeah, have you seen Fizendepity or whatever's far away? When you're looking at it, it's literally 3 frames flapping in the air. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Might as well have just made it a V.
Yeah. But it's just, the performance of it is kind of, like, I'm still working on the second DLC right now. And the way the game runs is kind of what keeps me from, like, booting it up and just finishing it.
You'd think a smaller area would help matters, but how? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in the second DLC, it's kind of divided up into 4 areas. You've got like a not tundra, like a savanna area, which probably runs. Well, it's one of the 2 worst running areas because it's got like all this long grass. And then you've got like the tropical area, which again, you got a lot of green grass, some tall palm trees, also doesn't run great. The ice area, again, doesn't run great just because there's a lot of water in the area too. And the area that runs best is the one that's just like a rocky mountain. Just like kind of a plain rocky mountain, no, or very few blades of grass to have to render. Just... I would have liked to see a performance update, but it's not coming at this point.
Yeah, and like me and you, when we talked about Scarlet and Violet in the first place, like we somewhat forgave the performance issues just based on, the newness of the feel of the game. But that's Pokemon's a long game.
Yeah.
And then coming back to it like a long time after the fact and still being this bad, that's pretty inexcusable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just like really disappointed with a lot of the stuff with the newer Pokemon games. Like even when it's not as bad, it's still pretty bad considering where it should be.
How did new Pokemon Snap run?
New Pokemon Snap ran great, and it looks great. Like,
I don't think it was developed by Game Freak though.
Huh.
no, actually,
Yeah.
let's check it. Yeah, new Pokemon Snap, like, looked like a Wii U game instead of a Wii game.
Oof.
It was developed by Bandai Namco.
Ah, Bamco. Okay.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, because
the
apparently
outsource shop.
Bamco now actually has a division specifically for helping on Nintendo games.
Yeah, but like, new Pokemon Snap, actually looks really good. And honestly, I would hope so, because that's the entire point of the game.
Pokken looks really good. Again, Bandai Namco.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, it doesn't have to. You don't have to have like super high poly models or like crazy
no.
textures like to make Pokemon look good. You need, I would say, like a understanding of how to make that art style work. I guess, I don't know. Like that's the thing. Like, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard. But even like Arceus, which I liked, looks like honestly trash. And like new Pokemon Snap,
But I
looks
would
way
still
better.
say it looks better than Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing though. Even when Arceus came out, people were like kind of dunking on it, and then it's like it's continuing to get worse. Like, it shouldn't be. And
Yeah,
I gave Arceus a huge pass because I actually liked some of the ways that it was changing the formula.
Mm-hmm.
But like, even like just looking back, I'm like, the frame rate issues, especially the draw in the distance, the draw distance issues in general, like just the crappy texture, everything. Like, it doesn't have to be that ugly. And actually, yeah, like now that I'm like, and Pokemon Snap also has like some fairly, I mean, it's a lot more closed in compared to like something like Arceus or Scarlet and Violet, but it still has like some substantially large areas. So I feel like it's really kind of inexcusable how bad like the mainline Pokemon games have become.
And it's not even a matter of the hardware of the Switch at this point. There's plenty of examples of games looking good and running well on the Switch.
Tears of Kingdom.
You look at Tears of even though it caps at 30, like, it looks good. Like, it makes the best of what it can with the hardware.
Yeah.
I'll
But
take a
then
consistent 30 any day of the week over a variable frame rate.
But then you also look at like Mario Odyssey, which looks great and runs at 60.
Yeah, that was a while ago now.
Yeah. That was like second year of
Yeah.
the Switch, I want to say.
Yeah, we've gone over the performance issues in this game a lot, and it's troubling to see that they're still there. But
yeah, and if it weren't for those performance issues, I feel like Gen 9 would actually be my third favorite gen. But the performance issues just hold it back.
Yep. Okay, so this year, I didn't have the passion for a lot of games this year that I had the last couple years. Unfortunately, except for this category, where like a lot of games bummed me out, and there's games I played that I think are objectively not good. But for me, the worst was the first game I played this year, which was Fire Emblem Engage.
All right.
No. Nuh-uh.
The Colgate ad.
Absolutely no. Screw this game. Legitimately franchise killing for me. Like,
oof.
At this point, Fire Emblem is not a buy unseen purchase. Like, I'm gonna have to like dig in. I'm gonna have to wait for other people to tell me their thoughts before I want to play this game, which sucks because there's an era of Fire Emblem that I think are some of the best strategy games ever made, and this game just takes the strategic elements of the franchise, throws out the window, replaces them with terrible character designs, worn out plots, really just incongruous aspects to it when it comes to outfits and stuff like that.
Got some of that Tokyo Mirage session spilling over into mainline Fire Emblem.
They went full anime. They didn't have to go full anime. They could have kept it being this, like 90s anime era style with great, tight strategic gameplay. But instead, they decided to make it broken.
And still keep it looking medieval.
Yeah. Like, I get that games have to evolve. You can't just put out the same game over and over again. But this was not the way. Three Houses. That was the way. I have problems with that game, but that game tried. This game, no. Like, again, I quit this game very early on, which is not something that I do very often. I don't drop a game because I hate it, like, that often. I generally want to see it through, especially if it's something in a franchise that I really, really like, just to see if it gets better, if it gets worse. But I just could not care less about this game.
Maybe I'm misremembering here, but aren't there two different teams making Fire Emblem games at this point?
So, Bandai Namco did Three Houses.
Okay.
Should Bandai
There you
Namco
go.
just take over Nintendo?
Maybe. Whereas the team that did Fire Emblem Fates did Engage, which says all you need to know about, because Fates is even worse. Like, I just could not get over this game, and this game hurt me in a way that not many games have. Alex, what about you?
Biggest bummer. I've been on the lookout for co-op games to play, with April or maybe in the future, with the little one. But one of those games I tried Dungeon of the Endless. And I want to be clear, I am not talking about Endless Dungeon, because the naming scheme of the Endless Universe is a dumpster fire, to be honest.
Yep.
But yeah, so Dungeon of the Endless is... I do not like this game at all. And maybe that's just me, but first of all, yeah, the co-op isn't really co-op. It's more just like... It's basically just two people that happen to control the same menu system, which is never ideal. And I don't know, calling that co-op is kind of just like, I don't know, it's not really, it doesn't really feel like co-op. And so as a co-op game, I wouldn't recommend it. I tried to play it just single player, and mostly I just didn't like it. It's a really awkward mix of turn-based strategy gameplay and tower defense and real-time combat, which is just a weird... I just felt it was a weird mix that didn't really... Yeah, it didn't gel at all. It felt like I was... Yeah, it felt like it was trying to do too many things in very distinct styles that I didn't like, because it was almost like, if it was something more like a real-time dungeon crawler, I probably think that would have been better, which as far as I understand is actually the direction they've gone with Endless Dungeon. Like, Endless Dungeon, from what I've seen, is more like a top-down dungeon crawler, which seems like a much better direction for it to go versus the weird disjointedness of what Dungeon of the Endless is.
Yeah, like I played Endless Legend in the Endless Universe, and it was basically the exact same thing. They had way too many ideas that they tried to cram into one game, and some of your parts, man, like it just didn't work. So I guess that's something that this developer can maybe work on a little bit.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's okay to say no when planning a project.
Yeah, it's weird too, because I definitely heard a lot of good things about Dungeon of the Endless, but it didn't click at all for me, and I was not enjoying it in really any way. I kind of forced myself to go through several hours just because I wanted to give it a chance, but I just didn't like it at all. And yeah, and it seemed like not only that, but a lot of the mechanics seemed almost like it had so many mechanics, but also a lot of them were just really weak. Like, you're getting upgrades, and the upgrades are just so worthlessly small but there's also not very many of them. And so it's like, yeah, you're strapped on resources. You got to like really make decisions about how to upgrade your characters and weapons and stuff, and your tower defense stuff and your rooms and power upgrades and all this except it like almost doesn't even matter, because like your upgrades aren't even very good. It's like the worst of both. There's like you can make it so that upgrades are really meaningful, and you have to choose between them, or you can make it so that there's a lot of upgrades and they're individually not that big, but they kind of add up because there's a lot of them. And this seemed to have some kind of like awful middle ground of like, you don't get very many upgrades and most of the upgrades are not very helpful. And I was like, this is really brutal. And then it seemed like it seemed like the way to like actually kind of metagame it was to essentially try and save resources between floors and not use them. But the problem is that the game just really didn't really seem like it rewarded saving resources between floors very much, because again, the resources just they don't actually get you very meaningful upgrades anyway. And there's no like, and there's like a little bit of economy where you spend money to make money. So if you like get certain upgrades early in a floor, then you can theoretically get more resources out than you spent to like on the resource gathering. But the problem is that it just didn't really seem to scale very well. And like it was just a constant struggle. And like I was struggling against like weird controls, like a fundamentally strange economy in the game, and then also just like an awful mix of like trying to like min-max turn-based stuff in real time, and I'm like, no, I just don't like it. It was kind of like a very disjointed experience, and the mechanics didn't gel with each other. So yeah, Dungeon the Endless gets a big thumbs down from me. And I know it's an older game at this point, but I played it this year and it was extremely disappointing.
All right, so which one of these wins or loses, I guess?
I kind of want to go with Fire Emblem here, because
thank you.
While the performance of the Pokemon games is what it is, I wouldn't say it's franchise killing.
I think franchise killingly bad execution is, I think, the contender here.
Yeah.
At least the
I
endless.
don't feel good about it.
at least the endless universe might be getting better.
Yeah. Upward trajectory instead of downward trajectory.
Yeah, but also I just remember that
like you guys watched a little bit when I streamed
it was rough.
Right?
It was rough. Yeah. And like even apart from like even divorcing like any sort of talk about the history, just the entire plot was utterly boring. Like it was the worst sort of like just
exposition dump, but not even. But they would dump exposition that somehow it failed to build a world.
Yeah, it was like pointless exposition dumping that didn't even matter, and also didn't even like, it wasn't even like how you tell a story. Like they were pretty much just laying out a bunch of garbage right at the beginning. And then there's like nothing to even figure, like there isn't even a story. Like there's just like, yeah, here let's just dump the entirety of everything right now. And also it's poorly thought out and doesn't even make sense. And it's like, what are you doing?
Let's get away from the negativity, because it's our final category, and that is the game of our year. So which game did we play last year that stood out above all the rest? And for me at least, this was difficult, again, not because that there were a lot of great choices for me, but I kind of struggled a little bit to choose a game that I was truly passionate about. Even the game that I chose, I weirdly didn't finish. Where I just dropped it, kind of went, or I dropped it and didn't really go back to it. I straight up don't know why, and I really need to. But it's a fantastic game that does pretty much everything right that I played in, and that's Control. We talked about this at a very, very long time, me and Alex, in a previous episode, so I won't go over too much about what it does, but great voice acting, great atmosphere building, characters are interesting, suspenseful, keeps you on the edge of your seat. It doles out information in a way that makes you want to explore more and find out more. The combat has extremely satisfying gunplay, still probably the most satisfying third-person gunplay that I've played. The powers are fun. Environments are cool. Yeah. Everything about it is like pretty damn top-notch.
Yeah, and not just that, but I'd say the DLC like really just did a good job extending it too, because the way the main game ends leaves it a bit open. For obviously they had the DLC planned like almost for sure, and and the DLC really extended on just more environments in particular, like really some of my favorite environments actually are in the first DLC, the Foundation DLC. Really cool stuff. The other DLC kind of builds on the Alan Wake universe a little bit as well, because it's the same universe, and there's some tie-in. It just ties it together, and I'm not sure if we're gonna see like future Control. I don't know if we'll see a sequel to Control that like integrates further into the Alan Wake story. I'm not really sure, but really cool game. Love it. I am just gonna say now, I also nominated Control for my game of the year.
Well, I guess we know what wins.
So, I mean, yeah.
If you could make a good argument.
We could change our mind if you make a good argument.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, a lot of the same reasons, right? Just pretty much everything in the game is really, really well done. I thought that the game also looks really great for two reasons. Like, the graphics are good, and I think actually it was one of the games that was early to the RTX kind of... I didn't play with RTX because my GPU is kind of not great.
Like the RTX train, I'm pretty sure went Minecraft, Quake, Control.
Yeah.
Like it was the first like really big one that really pushed that as a feature.
Yeah. But apart from that, I think the game just has an incredible like just art direction, and it has a very clear idea of like what it's trying to do. It's got like the coolest, and I'm kind of rehashing some things we said a while ago, but just some of the most interesting like brutalist kind of architecture that I've seen in the video game. Very intentional with the designs there, and they also just did a really good job setting up just a lot of like just set pieces and shots in the cutscenes and scenes in general. Like it's really, really everything about it really good. The only thing I even kind of felt like I didn't 100% like was just like that I thought some parts of the crafting seemed a little bit unnecessary. But that's like such a minor complaint about the game overall.
All right, so I'm excited to hear what Matt's choice is. So I know like a lot of the games you played this year, and a lot of them are like pretty fantastic. So, which one stood out above the rest?
Well, as is, the listeners at home can't see this, but as is evident on my desk behind me, I love mechs. I've got a bunch of Gundam model kits. So for me, I think the clear choice was Armored Core 6.
Fires of Rubicon.
Yep. A game that offers a pretty decent mech customization with a wide variety of weapons to choose from. In fact, it even had a recent patch that added some more. So now rather than dual wielding miniguns, you can now quad wield them with shoulder mounted ones as well.
Oh man.
Quad wielding. That's a game changer right there.
So
you gotta...
do you get so do you get, the two bumpers are a gun each and the triggers are a gun each?
Yeah, so you basically gotta play fingers on triggers and bumpers.
Wait, actually? Actually? Okay, that was a joke.
Like PS2 Guitar Hero.
I was joking. Holy crap.
Well, yeah, so the traditional controls is your primary left and right weapon are the triggers, and then your shoulder equipment is your the bumpers. So if you're wielding 4 miniguns, just hold down all 4 and you're just tearing through shit.
You thought the triple plasma rifle in Cursed Halo was good. 4 Gatling guns.
I don't know, man. Like the third arm though.
But yeah, the ability to customize a wide variety, like you can do like a very heavy build with a bunch of heavy weapons, and just to support the weight, tank treads instead of legs. Or you can do something really light and high mobility with some faster weapons to just move around. And the game does, especially against bosses, the game kind of makes you, especially early on as you're playing through the first time, it really makes you kind of adapt to the bosses. And it allows you, whenever you die, you can choose to recustomize right there in the mission, which is really good for when you're stuck. Instead of being stubborn and just trying to keep going at with the build you're using, try something a little different. But what you have available to you is only what you've bought. So as you play, you have to purchase parts, and it actually does something really good, which I believe you can sell parts back to the shop at cost. So you can kind of shuffle around what you have without like losing money selling parts. But it does affect what you have, because when you customize in mission, it's only what parts you have on hand. But yeah, no, the game's great. You've got a variety of like large bosses and some like fights against bosses of the same size. I don't know. I think both types of boss fights have their merit, where you're fighting something bigger than you, but then also the fight against something of equal size.
Yeah.
And there's even this one mission that was really tough, where you're first tasked with dealing with two other enemies that are pretty tough. And you've only got a time limit before a third one comes in as well. But yeah, no, like in terms of like mechs will always I've always got a bias there. Yeah, I mean I did play another mech game this year, Zone of the Enders, but yeah, no, compared to Armored Core 6.
Huh.
Yeah. That was like early on in the
one?
year. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, and it also seems to do away with the very weird control scheme that the previous Armored Cores had you rely on.
Oh, that was so good though.
Holding the controller, for those who can't see it, you're basically holding the controller backwards, facing away from you backwards.
What? Why?
Because it was the most optimal way to play it.
Oh my god.
Armored Core grip.
That's silly.
But yeah, no, that's Armored Core. That's my nomination. But I'm willing to put my vote towards Control because it sounds really good, and I definitely want to get to it.
It's tough. I could go either way on it, honestly, because like while I said a bunch of glowing things about Control, and I recognize it's objectively a great game. Like I don't necessarily have like the strong personal passion for it that I do with like certain games I play during a year. Like my last two GUI nominations were games that I was extremely passionate about. Like, is Control one of like the top 100 best games ever made? I think probably it probably is. Is it one of my top like 50 favorite games? Probably not. So I think there's enough of a disconnect there that I don't necessarily think it's set in stone for me. It's also me and Alex both picked it, so
Yeah. No, I'm
like
I'm fine with Control.
it's very easy for me to say yes to Control.
Yeah, I mean, Armored Core 6 like it does sound fun.
Yeah, a lot of like the mech
I don't know.
designs.
I also feel
fun
like
decal stuff.
I also kind of feel like if you had played Control, that this might be just like a 3-person voting for
Oh,
Control.
very much
Probably would have been the easiest category.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also
Who knows? I could nominate Control next year.
Yeah.
oh god
You could.
no. I'm refusing that. We didn't let Alex nominate Outer Wilds last year. We're not letting you nominate Control next year. And like there is an argument to be made, though. Even though I'm saying this, I don't agree with it. That there is some merit to rewarding things that are more current, because Armored Core 6 is a game that came out last year, whereas Control is a game that came out 4 or 5 years ago that already got its propers. But at the same time, I think that's wrong. And I think that with the format that we have, rewarding, the game that we like the most that year.
That's why it's the games of our year.
Yeah. That makes me okay with it.
Yeah.
So, am I bolding Control?
I think so.
Yep.
All right, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, second place. Out of 2. Okay, so that takes care of that. Let's go over the some of the categories that we just went over. So we had our most anticipated games, which I'm not going to go over. We had the best level with Swift Platform from the game of our year, Control, and Mute City from F-Zero 99, with the winner being Make the Moon from Katamari Damacy Reroll. We had the weirdest crossover with many nominees, but we decided to go with Fitness Boxing Cross Fist of the North Star. Best music, we had Cassette Beasts and Risk of Rain Returns as nominees, with Octopath Traveler 2 winning. The Lo-Fi Award for Chill Games to Relax to had 2 one-word titles, Growth and Dredge, being nominated, but New Pokemon Snap, it has more words in the title, so it had to win there.
It's got 3 times the words.
3 times the words, 3 times the wins. Infinite times the wins, I guess. I don't know. Next, the biggest bummer. We had Dungeon of the Endless and the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, both of them. But the winner being loser being Fire Emblem Engage. It sucks that my 2 favorite franchises both like begin with Fi. It's like Fire, Final. I get confused a lot. But finally, the game of our year, with nominees of Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Control, and Control. The winner is Control. So we hope you had a fantastic 2023, and we hope that 2024 will be an even better year. We'll have to see how that shapes up. Who knows? Maybe the game of our year for 2024 could be anything. Could be Pal World.
It could be.
I doubt it'll be Power.
But it could be.
Who knows? Me and Alex might play it. All right, so that's Santo signing off, along with Matt.
See you later.
And Alex.
Bye, everyone.
Waving doesn't work, Alex.
No, it totally works. What are you talking about? It's about that. It's about setting the mood.
Like, you need to wave like hard into your mic to like get past whatever filter you have on to make it.
You need to brush your hand right up on the mic while waving.
Oh god, that's gonna be hell to edit. Well, alright. Have a good one, everybody.